should be able to identify the crime. Okay, so my position has always been LGBT cases are not to be criminalized because traditionally the Ghanaian culture has known of people with, some such tendencies. And I say this because there is an expression in the local Akan language, that of mine, of men who act like women and women.
Il n'est pas normal que le peuple congolais soit seulement identifié à la danse, à la musique et encore à quoi? Rien de sérieux. Ça, c'est la vie superficielle, c'est la vie médiocre.
Etego Petrus Cardinalum Kojo Turkson.
And hello my people, remember in our today's episode we are going to look at a very interesting topic about why African bishops or why African archbishops fail to be the next pope. Recently, Catholics around the world gathered to mourn the passing of Pope Francis.
Only love can hurt like this.
The head of the Catholic Church, who died in Rome on Easter Monday at the age of 88, was widely known as the People's Pope during his 12-year papacy. Many Catholics in Africa in particular have said that they felt a kinship with the late Argentinian-born pontiff who preferred to lead a simple life rather than focusing on dramatic displays of the Church's global influence.
Ricordo a tutti voi che dopodomani
across much of Nigeria, which has the one of the highest Catholic populations on the continent, there appears to be a cloak of sadness and grief hanging over churches and cathedrals following joyful Easter celebrations on the weekend. Nowhere in the world is the Catholic Church growing faster than it is in Africa. According to figures issued by the Vatican, Africans now account for 20% of Catholics worldwide. Against this background, calls for an African pope to be elected to head the church have multiplied in recent years. The so-called conclave, the gathering of 135 clergymen, was tasked with electing the next pope in early May, with some African names also featuring on the shortlist. In the first millennium AD, there were 3 popes from Northern Africa. Here is the question: has the time come now for the first African pope in times? During the conclave, each cardinal can put themselves on or another cardinal's name forward to fill the top position in the Catholic Church. Like with any other leadership job, prior experiences is often regarded as the key factor determining who ultimately wins the race. While there were 18 cardinals from Africa who were requested or sequestered away with the others during the conclave, 2 names from the continent were cited to be among the pontifical front-runners. And here is the first one, Peter Turkson, Ghana's charismatic peacemaker.
Pope Francis is telling us that there cannot be any true care of the sick without being incarnation. Incarnation means that the invitation.
Among the short list for the next pope was the Ghanaian Cardinal Peter Turkson. The long-term Archbishop of Cape Coast moved to Rome in 2009, where he became president of the Pontifical Council for Justice and Peace. We have Fridolin Ambongo Besungu, Congo's vibrant church leader. Across Africa, there indeed is a need for more peacemakers, a sentiment that will not only resonate with Catholics. In the Democratic Republic of Congo, DRC, conflict has been rife for decades, highlighted once more by the bloody escalation of tensions between the government and M23 rebels in the country's north in recent months. With around 50 million members, about half of the country's population, the Catholic Church in Congo is one of the biggest congregations in sub-Saharan Africa. The country is also home to one of the most prominent figures in Catholics in Africa, Cardinal Fridolin Ambongo Besungu, who heads the Symposium of Episcopal Conferences in Africa and Madagascar. Ambongo Besungu has served as a confidant to Pope Francis for many years as part of the Council of Cardinal Advisors. And now this is the reason as why Archbishop Fridolin Ambongo Besungu could never make it to be the next pope. However, there are notable differences between Francis and Cardinal Ambongo Besungu. Though he has been cited as holding some liberal positions like lobbying for equal opportunities for women, Ambongo was among those who criticized a papal decree by Francis in 2023, which would allow for the blessing of same-sex couples. Speaking on behalf of the Episcopal Conferences of Africa, Ambongo Besungu declined to accept the decree, attracting a great deal of support across Africa, while Rome's reactions to the revolt was notably more muted. Here is another thing: an African pope for African needs. For some Africans, it is exactly the fact that cardinals like Ambongo Besungu distance themselves from what many consider Eurocentric leadership that they like. Ambongo Besungu's staunch rejection of same-sex blessings represents what Africans expect from their church. Yet, such a firm stance against homosexuality might be a disadvantage at the conclave, especially when there were such big shoes to fill. Now, here's another thing: all options remain open. Behind the scenes, however, experts remain skeptical of the chances of either Turkson or Ambongo Besungu making the cut. First, the issue of ageism. At 76, Turkson appeared too old to some, while Ambongo, aged 65, was considered too young by others, who fear that the next pope could lead the church for decades on end. There is also the issue of the church's long-standing failure to fully and openly address countless issues or cases of sexual abuse. The reason as to why Bishop Fridolin Ambongo never made it is that the late Pope Francis had an eye on the current Pope, Robert Prevost. He had longed him to be the next Pope. He had longed him to be the next successor, by all means. So, Archbishops Turkson and Ambongo could not possibly make it. And remember, this is what made Archbishops Turkson and Ambongo fail at the conclave, not making to be the next Pope. And guys, remember, this is Imara TV. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. Let me hear your opinions. Let me hear your comments about why African archbishops never made it to be the next pope. Thank you.